On my wedding day, just minutes before I walked down the aisle, my mother-in-law pulled me aside and said, "You still have time to change your mind." He could have done better.
I was in a dress I sewed by hand.
My hands shook as I held the bouquet. I asked my husband later why she said that. He just said, "She's protective." 2 years later, when he cheated, she told me, "He's a man, it happens." I didn't cry. I just forwarded her the finalized divorce papers, with a photo of me holding the keys to my new apartment. I didn't grow up dreaming about weddings. I wasn't that kind of girl. My parents were divorced by the time I was in middle school. My mom worked 2 jobs, and my dad forgot birthdays. I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, in a 2-bedroom apartment above a dentist's office, and spent most of my time with a needle and thread in my hand. Sewing kept me steady. I liked things I could control. When I met Ethan, I was 31 and working at an upholstery shop off Hendersonville Road. He came in to get an old chair fixed.
It was his grandma's, he said.
His smile wasn't anything special, but he looked me in the eye when he talked, and he didn't interrupt. That alone made him stand out. We started dating not long after that. He was a data analyst for some logistics company, the kind of job I never fully understood. But he had a routine.
He paid his bills on time.
He didn't party, didn't lie, didn't make me feel small. I had dated worse. Way worse. The proposal came on a foggy Sunday morning. We were hiking up near Craggy Gardens. It wasn't planned, he didn't even kneel. He just stopped, looked at me, and said, "Let's not wait anymore." Then he pulled out a ring from his jacket pocket. The stone was green, not emerald, not jade, something in between. I found out later it was synthetic. I didn't care. I said yes. We didn't have money for a big wedding, and I didn't want one. I started sewing my own dress the same week. White cotton, soft, with some vintage lace I found at a thrift store in Hendersonville. I worked on it for weeks, bleeding on it more than once when I was tired and pricked my fingers. I was proud of that dress. It was mine. Every stitch. The wedding was small. Just under 50 people. We rented a hall outside of town with wood floors and a view of the trees. I remember the morning clearly, how quiet it was. I had butterflies, but not fear. Not until she showed up. Diane, his mother, never liked me. From the beginning, she had this stiff way of talking to me, like she was tolerating a bad smell. She would ask where I went to school, then smile too wide when I said community college. She once asked if my parents were the artsy, divorced kind, like it was a punchline. So, it didn't surprise me that she didn't compliment the dress. She didn't even look at it. Right before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, someone tapped me on the back. I turned and saw her. She leaned in and said, real quiet, "You still have time to change your mind." He could have done better. I froze. My hands were shaking so bad, I had to pass my bouquet to my cousin for a second. I said nothing. I just nodded. Then I walked down the aisle. That moment never left me. Not even on our honeymoon, not when we moved into a rental house near Arden, not even during the nights we cooked dinner together like nothing had happened. Something inside me closed up. She'd planted something cold in me. A week after the wedding, I asked him, "Your mom said something to me before I walked down the aisle." He was eating toast. He barely looked up. "What did she say?" I repeated it, word for word. He sighed, shook his head. "She's just protective.
She says stuff.
Don't let it get to you." And that was it. That's all he said. Fast forward 2 years. Things fell off. He'd started working late a lot. Not once in a while, a lot. At first I believed him. His company had merged with another, he said. There was more data to clean up, more reports, more meetings. Then I started seeing signs. He changed his passcode. He got a second phone for work stuff. He bought new clothes but never wore them around me. One night, I smelled perfume on his collar. Sweet, flowery, like something a younger girl would wear. I asked him straight. We were in the kitchen. I remember the sound of the dishwasher humming. "Are you seeing someone else?" He didn't deny it. He just stared at the floor and said, "It's not like that." Which meant yes. Of course it was like that. I found out her name a week later.
Paige.
I didn't snoop, not at first. But something snapped in me one night, and I checked his Instagram. He'd forgotten to log out on the laptop. She was all over his likes. Tagged photos of the two of them at concerts at a cabin in Boone. I never went to a cabin with him. She was 24, fresh out of college, worked in marketing. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even confront him. Instead, I called my old friend Nora. I went to her place with one bag and a numb feeling in my chest. She handed me a beer, sat next to me, and waited. I didn't talk much, just stared at the wall. Then I made a plan. I found a lawyer, filed the papers, got a studio apartment off Marymount Avenue. I signed the lease before I told him. When I handed him the envelope, he looked at it like it was a prank. "You're serious?" I said, completely. "You don't have to do this." "You already did." He tried to talk. I didn't let him. I walked out with my head up and the keys in my hand. Then Diane called. I was at Ingles, buying milk and toilet paper. Her number popped up, and I let it ring 3 times before answering. "You're being emotional," she said right away. "Men mess up. It happens. Don't throw your life away over this." I said, "You threw it away the second you opened your mouth on my wedding day." She went silent. Then she hung up. 1 week later, I mailed her a manila envelope. Inside, a copy of the finalized divorce papers, and a Polaroid of me, smiling in front of my new apartment door, keys in one hand, bouquet in the other. She never called again. 3 months after the divorce, things were quiet. Too quiet. I was back at the shop full-time. My hands stayed busy, which helped keep my mind off things. I filled orders, reupholstered old chairs, mended heirlooms people brought in with stories. At night, I cooked cheap meals, watched old sitcoms, and slept with the windows open, even when it was cold. I liked hearing the wind. It reminded me I was still here. Then, one afternoon in late fall, Nora showed up at the shop with a look on her face I hadn't seen before. Pity mixed with nerves. "You're not going to like this," she said. "What?" "I was scrolling on Facebook last night, and there's a post. Diane's." My stomach sank. I took her phone and read it. Diane had posted a long, public rant about me. No names, but it was obvious. She called me a lazy freeloader who tricked her son into marriage, said I was bitter, and claimed I had mental health problems. She even hinted that I might have forced the divorce with manipulation and threats. It had over 100 likes. Family, church friends, old coworkers of hers. Some even commented things like he dodged a bullet and she never seemed right. I felt like I was underwater. My hands went numb. That night, I made a fake Facebook account and scrolled through her timeline. She'd posted about Ethan's new beginning too, and about how Paige was such a kind, graceful young woman. There were pictures, Ethan and Paige at a lake house, Paige sitting next to Diane at a brunch, both smiling like this had all been the plan from the start. And that's when I realized Diane knew about Paige. She had known all along, maybe even before I did. It made sense. Diane never liked me. I was too plain, too simple, not part of the image she had for her perfect family. Paige? Young, stylish, career-focused. Diane's golden girl. The cheating wasn't a flaw, it was an upgrade in her eyes. The betrayal hit deeper than Ethan's did. I didn't want revenge, not yet. But I wasn't going to stay quiet either. I printed Diane's Facebook post and brought it to my lawyer. She read it, then looked up at me slowly. "This is defamation," she said. "If you want to pursue this legally, you can." "I don't want money," I told her. "I want something better." That night, I started my plan. I started collecting everything. Screenshots, emails, a timeline of events. I even reached out to an old coworker of Ethan's, someone I met once at a holiday party, who told me that Paige and Ethan had been traveling together on the company's dime long before the marriage ended. That was misuse of company funds. And she had proof, travel logs, expense reports. Things were going to get messy. But first, I needed a face-to-face. I texted Ethan and asked him to meet me for coffee. Just the two of us. He agreed. Of course he did. He thought I was soft. He always had. We met at a quiet cafe off Haywood Road. I wore a plain sweater and no makeup. Let him think I was still heartbroken. He walked in with that same cocky, sorry not sorry look. "What's this about?" he said. "I know everything," I said.
Paige.
The trips. The money. His smile faded. "You've made your choices," I said. "Now you're going to live with them." "What does that mean?" "You'll see." I stood up and walked out. Left him sitting there with a coffee he hadn't even touched. 2 weeks after that coffee meeting, I mailed a thick envelope to Ethan's employer. No return address. Inside were printed copies of the travel logs, emails, and screenshots I'd gathered. I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. 3 days later, Ethan called me. "You need to stop," he said, his voice low and shaking. "I haven't even started," I told him. Then I hung up. A week later, Nora texted me a link. It was a post on the local business news site. Ethan's company had suspended 2 employees pending an internal investigation over financial discrepancies and unauthorized travel expenses. No names, but again, it didn't have to say them. I knew it was Ethan and Paige. Diane went quiet on social media after that. Real quiet. No more brunch photos. No more proud posts about Paige. Just silence. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. Maybe they'd finally leave me alone. But then one morning, I woke up to banging on my door. I opened it, and there she was, Diane. No makeup, red in the face, holding a printout of the news article. "You ruined his life," she yelled, standing right there in the hallway of my apartment building. "You vindictive little witch." He lost his job. I stared at her. My hands were calm. My voice was calm. "He lost his job because he broke the rules," I said. "You raised a man who cheats and steals. This is on you." She tried to step into my apartment. I blocked her. "Go home, Diane. If you come here again, I'll call the police." She didn't move. Not right away. Then she hissed something under her breath, something about how I'd never be anything and how nobody would want me. I shut the door in her face. That night, I added a deadbolt and a camera above my door. A few days later, I got a package. No name, no note. Inside was my wedding dress. The one I had sewn by hand. Only now it was torn down the middle. The lace was shredded. The hem was burnt. Someone had lit a match and snuffed it out halfway, like they wanted to ruin it but not destroy it completely. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I folded it up, put it back in the box, and slid it under my bed. And then I started thinking about how to hit back, really hit back. Because now it wasn't just about Ethan. It was about her. Diane had made this personal. And I was going to make sure she regretted every step she took into my life. After the wedding dress incident, I stopped waiting for them to cross another line. I started digging. I remembered that Diane worked part-time for a small private school in Black Mountain. She'd bragged about it during our marriage, how she helped with the books, how much they trusted her. She always liked to act like she was above everyone, but deep down, she wanted people to see her as important. I filed a Freedom of Information request for the school's public tax filings. They had to submit them because of how they were registered. I also asked around quietly through Nora's cousin, who worked in accounting. He owed her a favor. And then I found it. Diane had been inflating expenses. Nothing huge, $200 here, $500 there. But it added up. Her name was on documents where it shouldn't have been. She was signing off on reimbursements to herself for supplies that were never purchased. It wasn't hard to figure out what she was doing. And it wasn't hard to guess why. She was funding Ethan and Paige's little getaways, covering hotel bills and gas charges by slipping them in with the school's budget. I even found a copy of an invoice for art supplies that matched exactly with the date they stayed at a cabin together. I sent everything, carefully labeled, neatly arranged, to the school's board of directors. Again, no name. No need. 2 weeks later, Diane resigned. Health reasons, the school claimed in their public notice. Then came the phone call. This time, it was Paige. I didn't even know she had my number. "I hope you're happy," she said. You've ruined 2 lives. I sat there holding the phone, not saying a word. Then I said, 3. What? You ruined mine too. For a while. That makes 3. And I hung up. Here's the truth. I thought I'd feel powerful after it all. But the night after Diane resigned, I sat on my apartment floor, staring at that box under my bed. I pulled out the dress, held it in my lap. The lace was still soft in the parts that hadn't been torn. I remembered every stitch, every hour I spent making it, thinking I was building something for a future that never really existed. That's when I realized I'd made mistakes too. Not for falling in love. Not even for marrying a man like Ethan. But for staying silent too long. For not speaking up the first time Diane disrespected me. For letting someone walk me down the aisle while warning me I didn't belong there. For thinking silence would keep the peace when it only gave them more space to trample over me. So I stood up. I took the dress to the balcony. And I lit it on fire. Not for revenge.
For release. I don't know what Ethan's doing now.
Last I heard, he was working at some car rental place near Charlotte. Paige stuck around for a while, but I heard she left him a few months later. Said he was too bitter. As for Diane, she's quiet. Doesn't show up at public events anymore. Doesn't post. I think she knows better now.
Me?
I still sew. I even started teaching weekend classes at the community center. I moved into a new place, brighter, with more windows. I don't date much, but I'm not closed off.
I just know what I deserve now.
And I won't take less. They say revenge is about making people pay. But for me, it was about making them seeing who I really was and who they really were. And once the smoke cleared, I wasn't angry anymore. I was free.